The Atomstack P9 M40 is the next level up from the P7 M40 that I recently reviewed. It's a 5.5 watt laser on a frame with a working area of 220 by 250 mm, which is a bit bigger than the P7 M40's 200 by 200 mm work area. This laser is advertised to be able to cut 15 mm of wood as opposed to the P7 M40's 10 mm of wood. One big advantage that this laser has over its predecessor is an interactive touchscreen and an SD card slot so you can engrave or cut files without having to directly connect to your computer, which is actually pretty convenient. This display is magnetic and mounts to the body near the mainboard connections. Also present is a power button, reset button, and an emergency stop button in case something malfunctions during use. In this video, I'll be unboxing and assembling the engraver as well as testing it out on wood, steel, and acrylic. Atomstack Official sent me a review copy of this product for this video, however every statement in this video is based on my own unbiased opinion. Let's get started unboxing the engraver. It comes in a well-packaged box, with the first item you see being a steel shield to put under whatever you're cutting, just to protect your work surface. Next is the main parts of the frame, as well as the 4 plastic platforms that help during the assembly. Also included are the wires and the other small parts in plastic bags that connect to the laser and the main board. Then, the legs of the machine, followed by the power supply and the laser itself. Here's the display that you plug into the board and stick to the chassis magnetically. For assembly, the first step is to slide the thicker rail into the rollers of the thinner rail. Before pushing it into the rollers, loosen these nuts a little bit so it's not an extremely tight fit. Then slide the 2 pieces together. If it's too loose once you slide them together, feel free to slightly tighten the nuts back up. Next, we're going to put the legs onto the frame. We'll need the black plastic stands to help keep our frame suspended while screwing in these legs with the screws from the bag that says Step 2. With an Allen key, tighten all 4 of the screws. Next, we need to install the belt to move the laser in the Y direction. To do this, we'll screw in the screw with the 2 bushings to the frame in the location that I'm pointing to, and then loosen the bracket for the Y motor. Once this bracket is loosened, we can wrap the belt around the bushings that we just screwed in and the motor itself, and secure it to the middle piece on the track that the laser will be attached to. After the belt is installed, we can tighten the screws for the Y motor bracket back up and making sure that the belt is taut. The next steps are to install the laser and then stick the pads on the feet. We'll have to flip the engraver and then slide the laser into the groove on the centerpiece. Then tighten it into place with the thumb screw that's on the laser. And then we just stick the pads on each of the feet as so. Now it's time to connect everything with our cables. Connect each cable as shown in the video. The HDMI plugs into the screen and to the main board. The motor connection closest to the Y motor plugs into the Y motor, and then the remaining connections plug in as shown in the video. Once everything's connected, we're all set to test this thing out. At first I was having a bit of trouble. The engraver was kind of being weird and it wasn't homing in the correct spot and it kept jumping, and it was even engraving backwards once I kind of got it to work correctly. I decided to look at the board and realized that the motors were actually plugged into the board wrong. The X motor was plugged into the Y motor connection and the Y motor was plugged into the X motor connection. This is an unfortunate quality control issue that must have occurred during assembly, but luckily it was an easy fix. If this was soldered on, this would have been much more of a pain and would have taken a lot longer to fix. If your engraver is acting weird out of the box, unplug the power and check the main board like I did. Just see if anything looks like it's plugged in incorrectly. Once I plugged the motors in correctly, it started running as expected. The first thing I engraved while it was working correctly was my logo into a wood coaster blank that I bought online. I uploaded G-code that I exported from Lightburn, which is a laser engraving software that I use, onto the SD card, and then loaded that G-code with the touchscreen. I used the clear acrylic spacer that came with the engraver to ensure that the laser is at the correct height above the wood. Then I clicked the frame button on the touchscreen to ensure that the wood piece was placed in the correct area. This moves the laser along the outline of what you're engraving. Then I clicked center to ensure that it was centered well on the coaster, and then clicked the run button. Now this is sped up for the video, but it only took about 10 minutes to engrave this. Whenever running this laser or any laser, it's highly recommended to wear eye protection to protect yourself from the blue light that it's emitting. If you're liking this video and want to see more product reviews and other projects that I'm working on, consider subscribing and turning on notifications to check out more of my content. My logo came out pretty clean with this engraver, and the wood grain showing itself in the engraving actually looks pretty cool. After fixing the motors, it prints in the correct orientation now, as you can see here what it was printing like before. I also engraved a rendering from my friend's Instagram account, Pethic Chronicles, linked in my bio. Check out his account for awesome 3D renders using Blender. Finally, I engraved a photo of a mountain and a river into another type of coaster just to show off what else this laser can do. I could probably get it to look a little bit more clear if I tuned the image a bit and chose one with better contrast, but this came out good enough for me to be happy with. Now that we see it can engrave wood well, here it is engraving steel. You need to first cover the area that you want to engrave with a dry erase marker or with primer, and then engrave over that so it's more visible on the metal. This came out super clean and honestly better than expected with this laser. Here's a small shelf that I designed using the generator boxes.py that I'll link in the description. I did a bad job designing it since there isn't much room to put items in the bottom shelf, but this engraver cut the 3mm wood I used with ease. Finally, here's some acrylic that I cut, which was also very easy with this laser. I wasn't really sure what to cut into this to show it off, so here's some more solicitation to sub to my channel. All in all, this engraver performed very similar to the P7 M40 in terms of what it can engrave and cut. However, having the touchscreen and having the ability to engrave and cut without having your computer connected makes it truly more portable, since there's less that you need to lug around to get it to start engraving. It's similar in price to the P7 M40, so if you have the budget to grab the P9 M40 instead of the P7, I think that the convenience of the touchscreen and SD card is well worth the price difference. However, if you're on a budget, the P7 M40 can engrave and cut everything that this laser can. Also, the quality control issue that I found with the motors being plugged in incorrectly wasn't fun to have to diagnose, but at least the solution was as simple as swapping the cables. Thank you to Atomstack Official for providing me with the engraver to review, and also check out the link in the description to get your engraver through their store. And thank you for checking out this video. Like the video if it helped you on your laser engraver purchase, and subscribe if you'd like to see 3D printing projects and more to come. Check me out on Instagram and join my Discord server to stay up to date on my videos and projects. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.